Lee and I are thrilled and honored to receive this award. It has been my pleasure and privilege to know Knox College since I was 14 years old. A long and wonderful relationship, remarkable education, remarkable traditions. I want to offer special tribute to the mathematics professors who taught us here. Their intellectual rigor was inspiring, their characters outstanding. Looking back, I'm amazed at the opportunities we had to study one-on-one with them. I was privileged to learn game theory in a class of one with Carl Oman, to enjoy Andrew Lindstrom's sense of fun and whimsy in a small seminar where Lee and I first became friends, to do an honors class in real analysis just by myself under Rothwell Stevens, and to learn from his deep intelligence and calm sophistication, and to cherish the mind and the deeds of Willard Ross, who made it possible for a Knox student to study for a year in Germany each year, a very rare opportunity then. At the time, I was also learning subliminally to expect that honor, honesty, generosity were standard human qualities. Alas, no. I have since learned to treasure these qualities whenever and wherever they appear. What Lee and I experienced as students here has inspired elements of our work in the Coase Institute. We offer those young scholars some of the individual attention and interaction in the small that meant so much to us here. Let me tell you briefly about our work there. We hold short, intense workshops once or twice a year, admitting 26 young scholars from worldwide applications competitively each time, and bringing 10 faculty to work for a week. We focus heavily on the young scholars' own research. There's one-on-one counseling and mentoring, detailed individual feedback and instruction. After the workshops, we stay in touch with them, advise, write letters of reference, help them get into advanced graduate programs, and so forth. Most are in economics, political science, and law, typically 25 to 35 years old, with backgrounds that range from a billionaire's family to a rural, poor Chinese village family where meat could only be purchased once a year. What we seek always in all of our participants is individuals with curiosity and dedication. Let me describe one such individual to you. An American student of Chinese ancestry who is studying the encroachment of the desert on an ancient oasis in China. To examine the effect of changing rules and property rights over time, he needed access to the local historical archives of the oasis. He got permission from the provincial government, but the local official refused him again and again permissions for access. Finally, the student met one last time and said firmly, "I'm a graduate student from far away. I need these data for my dissertation. I have to leave very soon. Here's my written permission from the provincial government. Let me see the data." The local official stood up from his desk, walked around, and began beating up the student. The student, who was a trained boxer, stood still, kept his fists clenched at his sides, and murmured to himself repeatedly, intensely, "The data are worth this. The data are worth this." After the beating was finally over, he immediately went out, phoned the provincial government, and told them there would be a very unpleasant international incident unless he got the access promised. He returned home, data in hand. This is scholarly dedication. Our goals in the Coase Institute are long run. We hope for a major impact decades from now. Most foundations prefer projects that provide something tangible for the next annual report. But we think this terrain, this long-range terrain, is a good place to stand. Ronald Coase, our friend and mentor, whose work has transformed disciplines and entire countries, thought so too. This is what he said. We do not know, for the most part, what is true and what is false, what is significant and what is not. It is our aim to find out. Oh, yes. A young scholar wrote recently that our workshop, quote, remains an important and beautiful part of my life. I like that comment. The student days Lee and I had here at Knox remain an important and beautiful part of our lives. Thanks for everything.
It's a great honor to be here on this occasion, this beautiful memorial room. I've spent some wonderful times here and it brings back memories. The time here has been a wonderful experience for both Alexandra and myself. I would like to thank Knox, the committees involved, especially Carol Brown, for making it so. So thank you very much. It's really wonderful to see the campus again and Old Main. We've traveled to a lot of campuses around the world, many. Nowhere, I mean absolutely nowhere, is there a more beautiful building than Old Main. You don't appreciate how beautiful it is. Let me speak now a bit about personal experience at Knox. I grew up on a farm in West Texas. Great place to grow up, but not such a cultural center. There was no library, one stoplight. On arrival to Knox, there were exams in, and I failed the Culture and Humanities part of the exam. It's a screening exam at that time to place students in, and had to go to Intro to Culture. I called it Culture Zero, but that's not the title. So what is the good news here? When you start at zero, it doesn't take much of an increment to get a high growth rate. So, it's one of the beautiful things about mathematics, right? If the zero's a base, you can really grow rapidly. Thank you, Knox, for the exposure to Dostoevsky, to 12th century Renaissance, to Van Dyck and Van Eyck. I'm not making great claims, but I'm no longer at zero. I first got to know Alexandra in a seminar in Old Main. It was a course on modern algebra. Modern algebra is hard. Modern algebra, I was a pretty good math student, but that's what it is. It was my mathematical Waterloo. But unlike Napoleon, I had Alexandra to help me. So I survived. You didn't have to go to the island offshore here. She pulled me through, and she actually pulled most of the class through there. She was most generous. Now, what did I do in this exchange? I made a deal, at least implicitly. She helped with modern algebra, which is really tough. And in return, I gave her my brilliant solutions to the problems of the world. Not a bad trade, huh, guys? And the introduction, they said, we went to Stanford. Well, she went to Stanford, and I made sure to go out there. That was some mistake I wasn't going to make. How has Knox influenced me? Well, since 5 years old, I've been at school. Why? I grew up a daydreamer living on a farm. Now, farming is work. I don't know if you know that or not, but you really have to work on the farm. Whereas daydreaming is not. Hence, when I saw Knox faculty who were actually paid for talking with students and thinking about ideas, serious daydreaming, right? I knew that was the path. I knew that was for me. For me, the Knox education was perfect, and it was transformative. It showed me the path that I've never regretted taking. So all my life, I've been talking with students about ideas. It's been wonderful. It's intoxicating to come to understand how a quiet student in a class can actually change the way you see the world, and in fact can change the world. Darwin, Adam Smith, Newton, and Ronald Coase have changed the world. Coase was really probably the most important intellectual in the transformation of China in the last 30 years. So these ideas were fundamental building blocks there. Let me give you one example of what one of our students did. This was 12 years ago in Rio. A quiet student from Argentina came in. He did studies. He was an economist who was interested in looking at things on the ground. So he wanted to study. There was lots of problems of poor water supply in Argentina for consumption. So at that time, they were basically replacing the government-owned supply because they weren't doing a very good job with publicly owned water systems. The issue is, what difference does it make? The price of water is going to go up when you put in the private system, but you're going to get investment. So he did a lovely study with all of the statistical understanding about how you avoid all the problems of inference there. And what did he find? He found that the child mortality rate fell when you privatized the systems. That is, while the price went up, you at least got more good water, and the children didn't die of gastrointestinal disorders. It's a beautiful study that was published in the Journal of Political Economy. So, as I said before, it's utterly intoxicating to work with young scholars and more senior scholars dealing with ideas. They do change them. Now, I'm a professor. I've been a professor all my life, and one of the advantages of being a professor is that you get to give students advice. You can't really give your children advice, or your grandchildren, or other members of the family often, but you can give it to students. So I have for the students in the audience, I have 3 pieces of advice. 1, take mathematics till you throw up. So I almost got there, and that was the right thing to do. The second thing is learn how to write. So if I was doing it over again, I would take more poetry and other things to try to get much better. Even if you're not good at it, being able to communicate well is fundamental to success. Finally, you have to be an entrepreneur in life. You've got to be looking for opportunities, keeping your eyes open, and figuring out what the changing world is all about. In summary here, serendipity brought me to Knox, and a happy accident it was. I hope our grandchildren have such a good experience, and thank you very much.